I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. You all for coming today. Nice balmy evening. Our first business is a Board of License Commission. We have a remonstrance hearing for the purpose of considering the following transfer application. We need to open the remonstrance. I'll read it. Pursuant to Title 3-5-19 of the General Laws of Rhode Island, 1956 is amended. Notice is hereby given this an application is received for the transfer of the stock of retail beverage license Class BV held by RL Flounders Incorporated, DBA, Rhode Island Flounders by John Dorsey, Esquire, court-appointed receiver to the Stalking Horse Tavern, Inc., located at 90 Pottersville Road, Little Compton, Rhode Island. So I have consideration of, is there anyone here that wants to speak on that? Not seeing any. I will close the remonstrance hearing. And about consideration of after said transfer application. Do I need to vote for that, Carol? Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer application with all state and local. Make my requirements adhere to.
Yeah, second.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4-0, Carol. Thank you for that. For announcements today, I'd like to recognize the passing of former town council member Joanna McKenzie. She was a talented artist and a true leader in our community. I personally got to know her. I worked at her house for a couple of weeks and was lucky enough to stay in her studio where I had lunch there a few times. Sometimes she wasn't there. And I would sit where she would do her paintings. And it was just a remarkable feeling to sit there and feel all of that. And, you know, where she got the ability to do all that, it was quite remarkable. And she's a remarkable person also. We have her husband, Brett, here. I think he'd like to present something and say.
I was very honored by your recognizing Johanna, and in that honor, I would like to present a painting of hers to the town. The town meeting, all of what we do. Apologies, but no perhaps.
Beautiful.
But I wanted to painting that was iconic for the town, and also very meaningful to her, which is what's wrong. But everything.
Yeah.
And also pick one with the skies that she saw in town. She was so. So it gives me a great honor to present this.
Thank you so much. Okay, approval of minutes, motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I have a moment of silence for Joanna. Thank you. Thank you. Approval of minutes, have a motion.
You approve the minutes as written for December 19th, 2024.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Town. So department head reports. Anyone want to stay out of there?
To approve all department head reports.
Second.
I have a second. I would like to just take just a couple of things out. Tony, the school bonds you have in here, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one down. We rebonded the town, the school bond And do we have a number? Was it 200? What was the number?
114, excuse me, 214,000
So 214
in a year period.
over a 10-year period, $214,000 was saved on the school bond by rebonding that. And I'd have to tell you that Bob Mushin is a leader in doing that. And I want to thank him for saving the town $214,000 and all the work that he did to do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next one is Meeting Hall 32 Commons. Architect Melissa Hutchins has submitted a proposal to the town council to do a feasibility study of the building to see how it may be repurposed.
Excuse me, you didn't ask for a
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry, all in favor? I'm still pulling the phone.
Oh, right, that was the next item on the agenda, so I thought you were moving.
No, I'm sorry, no.
Okay.
I'm just pulling this out. What I wanted to talk about was the maybe repurpose. Ray Gomes, fire consultant, has also provided his expertise. I just wanted to briefly bring us up to speed on the fire code on 32 Commons.
We actually had a little hiccup where we had to close down the fire marshal closed down the building temporarily because we were shy one item of 15 to complete, what was required within the 30-day window of time given by the state fire marshal. That being the case, we were able to resolve that and it's now functional, the downstairs, but not the upstairs until we go before the board again.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out, that the Odd Fellows Hall, which is 32 Commons, was shut down. Now open on the bottom floor, but still shut down on the first floor due to fire.
Second.
Correct.
Thank you. And lastly, the Commons traffic flow and parking is also on your report. And it's also in consent. So I'll just briefly mention it here. Chief Raines has received confirmation from Michelle King from RIDOT. State Traffic Commission will entertain a feasibility study to address the traffic flow and parking at the Commons. You want to comment on that?
I will briefly. She actually came down, her and an engineer. They visited with a few of us, of the town reps. With that, they took the information back. They brought it before the traffic commission and they entertained the idea to come back and do a full study of the Commons of the traffic flow as well as the parking.
And that initiated from
Chief Raines.
Chief Raines initiated that some time ago.
I would say a little while ago, a couple months ago.
And I think he was at the last meeting. He explained that eloquently.
Correct.
Waiting for the response, and this is the response.
This is the response, correct.
So I just wanted to tie this together.
It's an affirmative response on their part of the commission.
Thank you. All in favor of the department head report?
Aye.
Thank you. Old business one, receive proposals responding to the request for proposals for upgrade, replacement, or installation of stairs, exterior and interior of 32 Commons. Say, sub A, recommendation from Councilor Mushin and Talbot regarding the necessary work on the stairs of 32 Commons. So 32 Commons is Oddfellows. So if I say that, get that in everyone's head, 32 Commons is Oddfellows. I'll leave it to you folks.
I've spoken sufficiently this evening, and Councillor Talbot and I have agreed that she will speak on our behalf.
Received no proposals for the stairs. And feel that subject will be carried over into new business number 4 to Melissa Hutchison Architect's proposal regarding 32 Commons.
2, receive requests for proposals of Director of Senior Services. Carol, how many applicants do we have now? Is it up to 12? 3, I'm sorry. And we'd like to set up interviews, and I will ask the council, and I hate to do this, the calendars want to be a good time to have these for 3, correct? Take your phone out, you look at your calendar, and you see when you want to do it. You pick the date. Yeah.
Mondays are typically good for Andrew, is that right?
Would we like to do it on the 23rd, our next council meeting
Before?
before?
That would be fine with me.
Works for me.
Would we like to do 5:30? Or is that just too soon? We do have fun. If it's early, we listen to the stories.
No. I don't think we want to,
5:45?
whoever it is that tells stories, you got to shut him down. What time?
5:30, 5:45. Those are my two. I'll throw those out there.
I think give me time. Not too much.
Good one.
5:30 on the 23rd. Carol, would you send that out? Appreciate that. Thank you for doing that so quickly. New business one, recommend changes to the budget committee for compensation of the town clerk for the FY 26 budget as per Home Rule Charter Section 502B2. I'm happy to make a motion of 4% increase for the town clerk. Second that. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And I don't see any opposed. Thank you.
Thank you for that recommendation.
Well, set date for annual financial town meeting. We'll bypass looking at your phone and we'll go with May 20th. I have a motion for May 20th.
So moved.
Second, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Discuss options to receive funds from the playground fund for recent work on the playground and what steps to take with remaining funds as its private group no longer has a membership. I've talked with Philip DeSisto. He has every answer for me for this today. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
So I reviewed the emails that you had on the matter, and apparently there are funds with the Rhode Island Foundation that are in the name of an individual as opposed to the town of Compton. We've reached out to the Rhode Island Foundation, specifically Millicent Brown. She's reviewing the accounts and will get back to us as to exactly what the town needs to do to transfer, not so much transfer the funds, but rename the account in the town of Compton. I understand you have some other funds that were handed over to the, yes, the general.
And it's director, right?
Yes, and perhaps those funds should be directed towards the playground also.
So I can fill in the blanks for people that are listening. We had a playground committee for 25 years, maybe 20 years,
Good one.
a long time. And those people obviously aged and their kids aged and then they no longer play in the playground. So they don't want to be on the committee anymore. Some money sitting in there, it was 3,000 and change, I think, that we closed out and came back to the town, Tony, is that correct? And was put back, I think, in the rec. Where,
The rec account.
Creation account.
so it's my understanding, Bank, Tony, the Rhode Island, what's it called?
Well, the Rhode Island Foundation, one of the things that they do is manage funds for charitable organizations and even communities on them. So they take care of the accounts themselves, manage the funds, and this is one of those accounts.
My understanding, in the past, we've drawn down from that account from time to time in order to replenish our local bank checking account.
That's correct.
And we will, we would like to obviously continue to do that. But to the president's comment, it's no longer the person who was the checking account manager that wishes to be in charge of that. So
Yeah, she actually emailed and said she was no longer, didn't want to do that anymore. So I think it's prudent to have that account shifted over to the town of Compton with the Rhode Island Foundation.
So we are in the midst of doing that and figuring that out, and hopefully in 2 weeks we can report back.
We'll know exactly what's needed from the town to effectuate that change.
Thank you. New business 4, consider proposal for architectural services 30 and 32 comments received from MH Architect LLC. That's the young lady sitting, the audience is right. It's a Hutchinson. 30 is the old fire barn. 32, as we learned today, is Otto's. So she has prepared a feasibility study, a proposal for a feasibility study, thank you.
Yep.
To see what we've got there, so we can move forward. Melissa, you prepared to talk about this document?
I am.
Go ahead,
I don't know how in detail you want me to get.
detailish.
So essentially, what I'd like to do is, or what I propose to do is to do existing conditions of both of those buildings, which would mean measuring the buildings, creating kind of an as-built existing conditions, floor plans, building sections, and kind of recording what's there. And visually trying to see what elements are in disrepair, what things are damaged. And then using the assistance of a structural engineer, which would be my camera. And also the help of Ray Gomes, who's already familiar with and has inspected the Odd Fellows building, so that we could prepare a full kind of life safety code review. So in that code review, it would list any deficiencies or things that would need to be upgraded or changed if we wanted to use that space as an assembly space. So it's also kind of a information gathering session where we would start to have a better understanding of the needs of the town in terms of things that are working really well, especially at the community center. It seems like there is a need for additional space, and there's a beautiful second floor there that could certainly use for that space. So the idea is essentially to try to have an understanding of how we might be able to make a multi-purpose space that could function for different things and what would need to take place. Fire barn is kind of a different situation. I actually haven't even been in that building. But we would want to kind of really make an assessment of that building in terms of its viability to be upgraded, what it could be used for, and potentially if it is beyond repair, whatever that it's in, that potentially that footprint could be used if we wanted to do something different there or potentially build a new structure.
Anyone want to add to that on the council?
I'll just add and say that generally speaking, I think the term you use, information gathering, is exactly what I'm hoping for us to do. And thank you for coming and thank you for your proposal. I think as we look at the buildings that we have, we need to think about their current use, who they're serving, and who they could potentially serve. We're balancing a lot of things. We have fire safety issues, violations that need to be addressed. We have some deferred maintenance certainly that needs to be addressed. And then we have other needs that are being shared with us from the community for space for seniors. And again, we have the existing users of the space. So we're trying to look at all of that in a holistic fashion before we go ahead and do any one piece or part of it. I think good planning is getting information first, and this is the step towards that. So I would make a motion to approve Melissa Hutchinson's proposal. And if it is approved by the council, encourage and ask her to begin working as soon as possible on those existing conditions, specifically for the Odd Fellows building.
So I'll second your motion and continue with the discussion. Melissa, phases, can you just talk about your phases here, the 6 of them? I have a, say, an estimation of cost. Can you go through those?
Sure. So phase 1 is listed as the existing conditions. So that is essentially measuring the building and creating drawings, sections, elevations of the buildings. Phase 2 would be fire and life safety code review. So essentially what I'd be doing is showing egress, travel distances, occupant loads, essentially everything that would need to be met for building code and for fire safety. And with that would come any kind of highlighting any issues or concerns that would need to be addressed if we were to use that building for assembly purposes. Number 3 is a structural assessment. So on my part, I'm going to kind of do a cursory review of the structure, see if there's anything visible, like powder post-beetle damage or rot, anything that's kind of apparent. And then if we see anything that seems like it needs more investigation, that's where I would ask Mike Camera to come in as a sub-consultant for me to make a more detailed report of what the structure would need if we were going to keep the structure, specifically with the fire barn. And then number 4 is the preliminary feasibility plan. And so that's kind of where the information gathering portion comes from. And essentially, once we all have a better idea of the needs of the town, I would put together a report saying, the highest and best use of building A and building B would be X, Y, and Z. And hopefully there would kind of be options within that, so that it could be open for discussion, and then the town could decide where they want to head with that. And then after getting more input, then I would put together as part 5 or phase 5, a final recommendation report. And I know that you guys have a timeline that's related to the town council review and the budget. And so essentially we would, in that phase, also be reaching out to a general contractor for their expertise, not necessarily to have final construction documents, but to say this is essentially the game plan and have them ballpark some pricing so that the town could make decisions based on phases that have numbers attached to them. So that, that's really the best way to do things, right? Because you could say, we want X, Y, and Z, but it's hard to say, is the money worth it for that? Or what do we have in the budget to allocate to different phases?
So thank you. So I'll just pick up on that. So we need to find out how much this is going to cost before we go to the town financial meeting. And this board will have to vote on that if they want to do it. So she's going to get us that information. She's going to get us a figure that we think is pretty close to a adaptive reuse of Oddfellows Hall. And also some information on the fire one. And I'll speak for myself. I'm only one of 5. It's my thinking that from the data we received from the survey and all the meetings we've had subsequently, that I do feel that the seniors need their own separate dedicated space. I don't think they need a full building. I don't think they need the whole Oddfellows Hall, but I do think that this is a place for their destination. And right now it's a police station and a jail. So what Melissa's going to do is turn that into something that's not a police station and a jail, so we can realize what we can do there. So that's what we're trying to do. We have a time constraint that this committee has to vote on that to get it to the town financial meeting. So Melissa thinks she can do it. And I think if we can get it, obviously we have to find a contractor who's going to do it, sitting around waiting for us to, give them this job, and if the price is right. So I think it could be done in the short term, maybe in 2025, if everything goes right. That's me saying that. That's not this council saying that. That's not Melissa saying that or Tony. But I'm hopeful that I think if we can work together and pull together, I think there's a short-term solution to the seniors and a long-term solution to that building. That's just my thought. And I'll introduce questions. We have a motion and a second. Anything else from the council you want to add before I open it up? No?
Yeah.
Larry Anderson.
Thank you. My name's Larry Anderson. I appreciate the detail and thoroughness of this report, which it seems appropriate. And this may have come up at previous meetings. I know it has come up in the discussion before. It's suggested in here, but not specifically addressed. I'm wondering if it should be specifically addressed, the fact that, and it's come up with other buildings that have gone here, but both of these buildings, as I understand it, I'm not an expert, I'm not a lawyer, that I've seen come up in other situations, both in town and in other communities, is both of these buildings are on both the listed on both the National Historic Register and State Register of Historic Places. And so my understanding of that and my observation of some discussions is that people have different opinions about what that means in terms of what can and cannot be done with regard to properties. But it's suggested here by virtue of using, if the fire barn is not structural right, that you would use the footprint. You make reference to preserving the historic facade and appearance of the Oddfellows building. And we have a pretty good record in town of both the town and private owners of respecting the integrity of this terrain. But I'm just wondering whether, for the purpose of the proposal, whether you talk about consulting engineers, safety personnel. I wonder whether, because the Rhode Island Historic Preservation Commission has a statutory role, looking at the statute, in certain circumstances, whether that should be brought forward at this time as a consideration that should be at least identified and put and addressed in your report.
It's my understanding that they are on the register. It's my understanding they are on the historical register, both those buildings. And that if we're going to do anything to those buildings, that we need to let them know what we're going to do with those buildings. That includes, shingles up, tearing it down. And I don't think anyone here wants to tear anything down. Want to bring it down. That's our hope. But yeah, we have to, my understanding, and I haven't talked to, I have the person's name. I've been on some email exchanges with the Historical Society. We're certainly going to make sure we do everything correctly here with these buildings. Absolutely.
Well, so I will. So my concern is to this be taken into account, and I'm raising it now, and I'll offer my own opinion about it's sort of a chicken and egg thing with historical buildings. These are buildings that have been they've been adapted over time. There's no moment in time that marks their history. I suppose you could say when they put on the historic register, but there's always a question of adapting 18th or 19th century buildings to our 21st century concerns in a totally different environment. Horse and buggy buildings, literally in an automobile age where there's a lot of different uses. So all I'm saying is there are decisions that have to be made about what is best going forward that addresses a variety of needs and respects as best we can the historical environment and appearance of this landscape, which has changed in other ways. So there are decisions that might have to be made that, we have different opinions. People have different opinions about what's appropriate. And so it's not going to be the architect's decision in the end, but a solution should take those things into account, but it's not the only consideration too. There are cost considerations and need considerations. So I just think this is very thorough, and it just seemed like an omission because it's a chicken leg thing. You may not know what to recommend, but there will be a point when it comes that, well, the cost of tearing this down a building and the other uses that we're trying to address, there might be some hard decisions. So it was sort of something I was looking for. It wasn't here, and I just hope that it can be included in this stage of the.
So Larry, I would say that's a great point, and thank you for raising it. And I asked Carol to have this picture to show up here because of the ongoing conversations and research and everything that's been going on. We came across this one, which was interesting for Bob and I, who were tasked with considering replacing the exterior side-by-side stairs out there, right? So at some point in time, there were 2 sets of stairs that were built because that's what we have now. Marjorie helpfully supplied this picture from the Historical Society where you can see there's no stairs at all. There's another picture at the Historical Society that has 1 set of stairs that spans the whole building and has a number of people standing on it. So to your point, history is at what point in time are we picking, right? So I think we are, I can speak for myself, trying to be very mindful of that and thoughtful. And obviously, maybe it's not obvious, I care very much about the aesthetics of the commons and any building that we touch. But Melissa, do you want to speak on the historical part?
I'd love to, and I'm very glad that you up. And I think potentially I should add it into the proposal potentially before anything is officially signed. In my background, I used to work at Newport Collaborative in Newport for 15 years. And specifically, I was taking historic buildings and turning them into high-end residential. And so a lot of those projects, I worked with Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission, Rebecca Vandal, and Deirdre Hess, to basically determine what the architectural features that were significant for these buildings were, so that we could get historic tax credits. So I know this is not a historic tax credit project, but I think as part of that report, it would be important to identify what I feel are the historic elements that should be kept, even if we change some other things that might have been moved or changed or in flux before that. But I think it would be really helpful to get whatever write-ups, because I know that the Rhode Island Historic Preservation Heritage Commission is very thoughtful, and they take their time in crafting the write-ups about these individual buildings. And I haven't read them for either of these buildings. I haven't even been in the fire barn, so I really don't know because I haven't gotten into things. But I think it would be important for me to make sure that I have a background and that I read what they've already come up with. Sometimes buildings aren't necessarily architecturally significant, but they might be significant because of a person or an event that happened in the building. And any of that information should certainly surface before we make any decisions about what should happen. So I don't think that would really increase the cost, especially this is just kind of hourly and it would be capped at, the price that I've put here. But for the small amount of time that it would take to gather that as part of this information gathering session, I think that would be very, very important.
Just for purposes of illustrating your point, the state register list, which is basically a list, identifies these two buildings. They identify them both at 30 commons. At 30 commons, they don't include 32 commons. But and this picture illustrates the point. The three uses for one building for the what I'll call the here's what they call what we now call the DPW building, which is not included in their historical uses, but the other uses in sequence are three: firehouse, hearse house, jail for that building. And that building next to the Oddfellow House is not the building that's there. It's not exactly the building that's there now, just by way of illustration. And then the other building, Secundit Lodge, Oddfellows Hall, Methodist Church. That was a Methodist church built in 1840. So the histories of these have evolved quite a bit. So that it's not that, it may not be that easy though to get too much more data. Anyway,
Thank you, Larry.
I have two hands, Jen Flather and Jennifer. Wins.
So just because I don't have access to the documents, what's the maximum amount for this study?
$1,125.
Thank you.
Leslie Fox.
I just wanted to say that we now have a new historic preservation advisory committee. And I think on behalf of the committee, I'd like to request that that group is part of whatever happens here officially. Got some real expertise on the committee that would probably start. Please.
Thank you. Another good suggestion. Should we add language to this proposal with the historical language?
I think we should.
Okay. Do we want to hammer that out now, or do we want to vote on this and have Tony, you and Tony, and then get that back to us? Any other question?
We wouldn't need to bring it back to
No.
council. They can just hammer that out.
No, I'm gonna make a motion. We have a motion on the table. Do I need to amend this motion for that language? Yes. Will you retract your motion?
I can retract my motion. Yes, I do retract my motion. I think it was my motion.
We don't want you to make a new one now.
All right, I'll make a fresh one. I make a motion to approve Melissa Hutchinson's proposal, subject to inclusion of language regarding the historical nature of the buildings and any related historical requirements or
Preservation thereof.
preservation thereof. Thank you.
Carol, you okay with it?
Does that meet the request, Leslie, that you made?
Oh, sorry.
That's sufficient? Is that sufficient language to involve?
As long as the committee gets looped in.
So I'll second that new motion. Discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Melissa.
Well done to you both. Thank you.
You stay here for the rest of the meeting, Melissa. I'm just kidding. New business 5, review opportunities for use of building space offered by the Little Compton Community Center and Wellness Center, Brownell Library for use of the senior population. So this is put together for immediate and temporary use for our seniors. We've had a meeting with the Brownell Library, Amy Moody, assistant Heather Fitzgerald. And they put together a calendar, which you can find at the back of the room, that shows a calendar of these facilities where they can be used while we wait on Fellows Hall, hopefully being used for a dedicated senior spot. So we had a very good discussion. We have a calendar for January for people to look at, for the Brownell Library, the Community Center, and the Wellness Center. All their open times, the conference rooms, large exercise rooms, the back room at the Brownell Library. I just want to say, speaking with Susan Russo and Amy Moody, Susan Fitzgerald, these folks have been doing a lot of great things in this town for a long time. And it really was an eye-opener to me about all the things that are out there. And they've did a lot of work putting this together and getting it to Carol. And of course, it all seems to end with Carol Woodell, who put this together for January. And hopefully we'll have another one for February. So I hope they take advantage of it. I consider it a temporary, immediate use for where our seniors can go before we can get them a dedicated space. Is there any questions for the committee on that?
I can add to that.
Sure.
All right. I was in that meeting. It was a great meeting. It was really productive and collaborative and cooperative and all those good things. So I thank everybody who was a part of that. And especially Carol, who took each individual organization's specific schedule and figured out how to mesh them together to create this calendar, which is now really very clear when buildings are open at what times. And it's not just open, it's open and not being used for other programming. So there's not overlapping programming. And if you take a look at it, you'll see that even if you take the library out of the equation for the moment, because they're pretty much generally open most of the time, the community center and the wellness center both have, if you put together, open times when nobody's using it for any particular programming from pretty much 9 to 3 every weekday. So if folks want to find space, it's right here, pretty much 9 to 3 weekdays plus all the available time at the library. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's nice that we have it all organized, and I thank Carol for pulling it together.
I have a hand up, Jennifer Platter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So will this calendar be available on the Little Compton website so that anybody can go there, or will it be posted where people can actually find it?
No, we just had the birth of that calendar.
I didn't see a birth.
You're holding it
This is
now.
that's the baby.
That's the birth. That's the.
I'm failing, but no, I didn't mean that it needed to be done this second.
No. So I think that, I think we anticipated that question.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And, yeah. And, I think that's something we can do, Carol. Yeah. You're welcome. Tony Texera.
Mr. President, if I may, just to add to that, we have a wonderful calendar of activities. We also have transportation, just to remind everybody that transportation is available. Now we have 2 buses, and I see Kevin here, and was there another driver somewhere around now? But he's very instrumental in keeping things going throughout the Rochester family. And so just a reminder, they can reach out and make sure that they get to the location they desire to go to.
It's a great add on to that. We can come get you and drop you off.
Carol, can I ask you a question? Carol, do you think that you could please add the telephone number for the bus to the bottom of the calendar so it's a one-stop shop there?
Okay. On to 6. Accept a verbal resignation from Stephen Ham as a member of the Pension Committee and announce a vacancy on the board. Motion, would you like to speak on this?
Only that Steve has for some time said that he is ready to hang up his shingle there, and I have at least one person who has indicated an interest, and as the implication of this item is, we will announce that vacancy as a result of this discussion and look for wishes to serve. But the members of the pension committee who are citizens are particularly have historically been particularly significant in that they bring a great deal of knowledge of administration of pensions for the details thereof. So we look forward to having a person that we can appoint to replace Steve, who's been in that position for about 23 years.
Wow. Thank you, Steve.
Should we write him a letter thanking him
I'm
for his
happy
service?
to draft that for his signature.
I don't know if anyone, if it's obvious or anyone knows the time that Bob Mushin has spent doing the pension and on the pension committee and leading that for these so many years and how great a shape it's in is remarkable. He's done a great job. So thank you for that. Thank you for continuing to do it. Okay, 7, receive and consider a proposal from Anthony DeSisto Law, the continuation of legal services as a town solicitor. Carol supplied us some documents that we have in front of us. Happy to read the proposal. Would you like me to do that?
Well,
I'd get the proposal.
first, I'd like to thank town council for appointing me in the first place. It's been very enjoyable for myself and my associates that come with me. And we'd appreciate it if we were reappointed. And the proposal I have before you is a modest increase on the solicitor budget, which is a flat fee. We anticipate doing some more work over these next 2 years, particularly on zoning and housing issues. So we anticipate that. That's why we asked the modest increase in that budget to $95,000. Litigation can stay the same. We would ask that the hour be increased to $175 an hour, which is still on the modest end for municipal work. The only thing that I want to add is on the sheets that you were supplied on my hourlies, I did have a chance to check on my own billing records, and these hours are a little bit low. I have actually taken a look at it, and the hours are higher. For the 15 months, I come up with 550.9 hours. And on the remainder, for those last few months, I come out with 212.1 hours on it. And we anticipate doing even more coming up. We just expect it.
The annual amount to be paid monthly for the service requiring the presence of solicitor council meetings, labor negotiations, legal services, and other than those associated with litigation is $95,000, and that's up
$10,000
from $85,000. So people have the numbers in front of them. It's 85 per year, 85,000, and it's up. And that was 2 years ago.
Correct, yes.
So the proposal is 95,000. The hourly rate 2 years ago was $125, which I think you put so you could get the job. You put it that low.
Well, actually, that's where I was with the other communities, so I couldn't move. But since that time, there's been some uppage.
And you've upped that to 175 an hour. Those are the two changes that I see here.
Correct.
Discussion? Have a motion?
We're looking to approve the proposal. I move that we approve the proposal as presented by the solicitor and welcome his participation in next 2 years.
Second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll be back and get back to work.
Yes. Looking forward to it.
Communications.
Very quickly on that, if I may. So this will be effective as of July 1st, am I correct?
It's whatever the pleasure of the council is.
Budget time?
All right, we have 60 days to appoint. Is that right, Carol?
Yeah.
For an election? Okay, communications, one request from the East Rhode Island Conservation District of fiscal 26 funding in the amount of $1,500 letter sent to the town administrator. Tony, can you speak on that?
Sorry, I was still focusing on the other one.
All right, so let's move it on.
What was that one again? I'm sorry.
Question.
The East, right. They've been very consistent. They do provide the service to the town. Right? So this, I think, is a very modest request.
Have a motion.
I move that we include this sum in our budget. By 26.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, thank you. Two, a letter received from Rhode Island statewide planning announcing the initiation of the process of preparing a new state transportation improvement program, acronym STIP, STIP. That will include a solicitation period slated for mid-February. Tony, am I you about this one?
Certainly. There's two pieces to that. One is they wish to have a contact person or contact as Friday tomorrow. We have to identify an individual that'll be of contact. I'm assuming that would be the point of contact for that. And we have until February 15th, I believe it is, to determine, to review the projects they're proposing for Little Compton.
All right, do we need to build up?
We'll have a little time to review those. I will pull them out.
Great.
Have a chance to review those.
Do you get a vote for this or just a charge?
I would say, yes, you do, because you appointing.
As the point of contact.
Would you like to make it, Bob?
I move that we appoint the administrator as the point of contact for the STIP program. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's good. Consent, they accept the consent unless someone wants to pull anything out.
Motion to place a consent calendar as well.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Payment of bills.
Motion to pay the bill.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. We're going to enter into executive session. So take your time. No, I did not mean that. No, I did not. No, I did not.
You're off camera.
Oh.
Aye.